We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Hey guys, I'm working on the second part of the Teletoon retrospective as we speak. I don't know when it's going to be coming out, but I'm going to get it out to y'all as soon as I can. To settle down some of the bigger videos on the channel, I'm going to start uploading some shorter videos based around movies that I personally find underrated. They won't overshadow the amount of longer videos you'll see on the channel, but I want to experiment with different kinds of videos and expose you guys to some interesting stuff you should check out. With that out of the way, let's jump right into it. In the 2010s, there was a good amount of films that bandwagoned on the 80s revival trend that had been going around at the time. Some of them, pretty good. Others, not so much.
What the is that?
But one that I always found to be one of the best, and honestly, one of the most underrated, was a sci-fi action film called Turbo Kid. The film takes place in an alternate version of 1997 where the kid, played by Munro Chambers, is scavenging across the post-apocalyptic wasteland where supplies like water are scarce. He meets with an android named Apple, and the two strike a strong bond with each other. When she gets kidnapped by a man named Zeus, he'll journey with a badass New Zealander named Frederick.
You're full of surprises, aren't you?
For Christ's sakes, will you shut the up and let's fight?
And a suit built by one superhero named Turbo Rider to get her back. From that premise, you would think that this would be another corny, low-budget action film with tons of 80s references and nostalgia. Which it is. But there's actually a lot to the film than people thought when it first came out. This film is actually pretty divisive. Even though this film has a small cult following, if you look up a lot of the reviews on Letterboxd or IMDb, they're pretty harsh.
I have no one to blame but myself. To me, this nostalgia-fueled, formerly completely inaccurate 80s homage stuff is basically poison. Why there isn't a federal statute limiting this crap to YouTube shorts and indie comics escapes me. Knock yourselves out, I guess. I'm sick of these meme movies. Really? This is what some folks are moistening their jeans over? It was terrible. Like Mad Max made in the school holidays by a 12-year-old and whose narcoleptic dad offers to edit the film with a pair of blunt scissors and a bowl full of skunk. Great music, but boy is this lame. That movie made me believe in superheroes. Cause I had to become one to watch this pastiche till the end. I hated Turbo Kid. I don't get its reason for existence, and I don't get whatever it thinks it's paying homage to. The memories that the directing trio are collectively conjuring by filming all this are not worth their effort and the effort of dozens of others. It's an ugly endeavor, with no redeeming factors or a single good feeling engendered by it. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, and that's the only compliment I can pay it. F.
Like, my god, opinions are opinions, but that's just brutal, man. And while I understand a lot of the criticisms, given that this comes out in the peak of 80s revival like Stranger Things and synthwave becoming popular around this time, I think this film does the style much better than people give it credit for. Sure, the film does look cheap at points, but I do think that kind of adds to the film's charm, even though I don't know if the directors intended it or not. The film is an homage to different movie trends of the 80s. There's elements that feel like an adventure film like The Goonies, the antagonists and landscapes all look like they're straight from The Road Warrior, and the way the gore is presented reminds me of early Peter Jackson like Brain Dead or Bad Taste. It's a hodgepodge of different ideas all blended into this one big cluster of a film, and I find it extremely charming. One thing I was surprised about the most was the writing. All the characters are surprisingly well defined and likable. I love the dynamic between the kid and Apple. We get a lot of time with them bonding and becoming friends, and at no point does it bring down the pace or become annoying. The actors have really good chemistry with each other, and the dialogue feels completely genuine and at points heartfelt, which is weird coming from a movie where a guy gets his forehead launched off like a boomerang. Which brings me to another thing I really like about this movie, and that's the tone. As I said before, the movie's an homage to different styles and trends from the 80s, so a lot of the times it hops around to different genres. It goes from post-apocalyptic to a superhero film, an adventure, a comedy, and with the gore, borderline horror, and it never feels too jarring and out of place. Any moments of gore are shocking, but they never come off as messy or we're watching a different film entirely. It's surprisingly cohesive, and with how the story is told and any moment where the genres do change, range. It adds to the entertainment value and it never becomes annoying. I also want to give credit to the soundtrack. The soundtrack is great. I've been listening to it on repeat ever since I first watched the movie, and honestly, it's one of my favorite parts of the whole movie. It's really well done synthwave and elevates a lot of the scenes that might be weird with how it's shot and how amateurish it looks at points. It makes everything feel much more grander in scale. It goes from quiet and ambient to bombastic and huge. Now, I can't play any of the music that much or else YouTube will absolutely destroy me. So if you're interested, I'll post a link in the description below of all my favorite songs from the soundtrack, and you can take a listen for yourself. Anyways, I really like this movie, and I think if you were turned off by it by the amount of 80s nostalgia bait that was coming around this time, I think you should give this another shot, and I think you'll enjoy it. It's got great characters, a terrific soundtrack, and overall is really entertaining and a fun ride through this post-apocalyptic, gore-infested world. I would give it 4 stars out of 5.